football.
Football.
Foosball is the devil.
Football is the devil.
Justin, Frankie, large heads on my screen. How you doing, guys? Let's go ahead and start with the Bills. The Bills actually they won. They're staying alive in the playoffs. This began as like a all New York show, but then we discovered that the New York teams suck except for the Bills. So as the final remaining New York team, they win a playoff game. How you feeling, Frankie, about the Bills right now?
Got to be feeling pretty good about them right now. This game started off very strangely with Denver just marching down the field. That long touchdown from Nix to start the game. And within 2.5 minutes, you're thinking, oh, wow, Denver actually might make a game of this. And then I don't think the Broncos got the ball the rest of the game. At least that's what it seemed like. The Bills just held on to the ball for so long, dominated possession, and the Bills just marched down the field, kept scoring touchdowns. Nothing to be ashamed of for Denver. They had a great year. They have a bright future ahead of them. It seems like they got it seems like they have the quarterback, and they have a lot of ability to make some big moves in free agency coming up. So I think the Broncos will be fine. They had a great year, but the Bills are just so dominant right now. Allen is clicking with all of his receivers. Offense is just doing wonders right now, and so I was hoping that after the first touchdown, I was hoping that this was going to be a very competitive game, but then the Bills did what the Bills did and turned it into a rout and set us up for a great, you can't even undersell. You can't even oversell how amazing of a game we have set up next week with Bills and Ravens.
Yeah, and Justin, the Bills as the final remaining New York team have to keep us relevant here. What were your thoughts on the game yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, they looked really good. They looked like the team we thought they could be. Defense really locked down on the Broncos offense. Frustrated them all day. Goaded Marvin Mims into a penalty on a punt return. Just really showed their stuff out there. Josh Allen, super efficient. James Cook is cooking over 100 yards rushing. They look like they are one of the teams to beat for sure. Now, the biggest test comes, of course, in the next game where you see an equally good team, perhaps, or even better in the Baltimore Ravens. But, it's almost like the AFC Championship game is the next game. But, yeah, it's going to be a good game to see.
Derek, I can't hear you there.
I said, who you guys got in that game? Let's start with you, Frankie.
Man, it's so tough. These are the two best quarterbacks in the league right now. Two best offenses, not counting. I mean, I guess this is the reason why it's not an AFC Championship game is because the Chiefs are still alive, and you can never, ever count out the Chiefs. I'm going to give the edge to Baltimore. I'm going to give the edge to Lamar, just barely. I believe that game I believe that game's in Buffalo, though, actually. So that's tough. I'm going to give the edge to the Baltimore, though. Look, it's got to be someone's time here because both of these guys have struggled in the postseason for the most part. I'll give the edge to Lamar and the Ravens. I think the Lamar Henry 1-2 punch is going to be enough to give the Ravens a win. But it's really a coin flip. I think in Vegas it's like Baltimore minus 1.5 or Buffalo minus 1.5. It's a coin flip.
Justin, any chance that it's going to be 70 degrees and sunny in Buffalo next weekend?
I'm going to say 0% chance of that happening. And I think really that plays into the hands of the Ravens because they have a much more punishing run game than the Bills. The Bills have gotten a lot better with the run. James Cook has been great this year, but he is not Derrick Henry. And if you're the Bills, you're thinking about how painful it is to tackle Derrick Henry in the freezing cold. And that's going to be a tough matchup. The Bills defense, the run defense isn't that great to begin with. And now you're facing a team who's built on the run. I think the only thing that beats the Ravens here is if the coaching staff decides, let's throw the ball more than we run it like they did last year. I think maybe they've learned their lesson from that. And I think that they're going to pull this one out. They're probably not going to be able to stop the Bills offense, but they'll probably get a turnover or two here or there just to make the difference. So I think the Ravens win that one as well.
All right, so the Eagles squeezed by the Packers. Frankie, thoughts on Eagles continuing to make Aaron Boone happy, unfortunately? I root against anything that Aaron Boone wants to happen outside of the Yankees winning because generally I dislike the man. So, as an Eagles fan, I have to admit, I'm rooting against the Eagles.
I feel the exact same way that you do, Derek. We are in total, perfectly aligned on this issue. By the way, just to clarify, the Bills are at home, and the Bills are a 1.5 favorite against Baltimore. But for the Eagles here, my takeaway from this game is how I guess it's unfair for it to be about the Packers when the Eagles were so good. But I was shocked at how many injuries the Packers suffered in this game. It was like 4 or 5 guys that just one after another, they all kept falling. And so what could the Packers do on offense? Not really that much, it seemed like. Although Jordan Love really did not help out his case. He threw 3 terrible interceptions in this game. And he and Justin Herbert were the 2 guys that really made me think, watching these games on Saturday and Sunday, made me think that Brock Purdy is going to get a huge extension, because Brock Purdy has played better in big games, it seems like, than Love and Herbert have. But Love had a bad kind of, he can be good, he can be bad, he can have these up and down performances. Yesterday was definitely a huge down, just too many bad plays. But the Eagles were dominant. The combination that is almost as deadly as Lamar and Derrick Henry is Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. Another great game out of there from Saquon. The play at the end of the game where he decided not to decide to kneel it instead of going for the touchdown at the end of the game there. Just a class move by a class player, because he really could have just pummeled the Packers there on that final play, but he didn't. Ultimate team player Saquon is. Hurts had a good game. Goddard had just an awesome touchdown with the stiff arm of the Packers defender. And yeah, the Eagles just looked in control for most of that game. Green Bay had a couple moments, but they were never really able to stay in that game for long. And yeah, Philadelphia keeps moving on, and it's not official yet, it's not locked in, but if we can get a Lions-Eagles NFC Championship game, that would be truly something to behold, watching those 2 teams go at it, because I think those are the 2 best teams in the NFC by far.
I'm sure Derek is saying something really funny right now.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I was. My audio today has just been a nightmare. I was telling
that's
Frankie,
probably his best joke he's ever gotten. He's forgotten.
I was telling Frankie to land the plane because he was filibustering, and Justin's sitting there like, we're wasting his time. Justin, why don't you comment on this Eagles game while I get my audio squared away?
Yeah, it was good. All right.
No, come on, Justin. I'm sorry. Come on.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I concur with the Eagles, Packers, the injuries with the Packers, right? So I think the problem with Jordan Love was maybe less Jordan Love and more that he ran out of receivers to throw to, and he felt like he had to kind of do it himself. He was hitting a lot of tight windows with those throws. Like the Eagles defense was playing well, and he was really doing a good job finding receivers. I was surprised they were able to score 10 points, honestly. But Josh Jacobs was playing pretty well. He didn't get the ball enough probably, but the Eagles were such a stout run defense that I guess they felt like they had to throw the ball to win this one. I mean, they were overmatched to begin with. They were already coming in without Christian Watson. Love was hurt last week, so he probably wasn't feeling 100%. It's just, it was going to be the Eagles game all along, especially with Jalen Hurts back. They had a better chance if they had to run with Kenny Pickett or something. But yeah, I mean, the Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts combination is a deadly combination, and we'll see how it holds up the rest of the playoffs.
So let's talk about Vikings Rams. They're playing in Glendale because of the fires. Have you guys seen those fires? That is absolutely. It looks like a hellscape. Like I was watching the news, and they were showing like the morning after one of the areas, and it looked like Terminator 2 after the nuke goes off in LA. It was insane. So yeah, I mean, hopefully everything gets under control there. But for now, they're going to be playing the game in Glendale. How do you think that's going to affect things, Justin? What are we looking at in that game?
I mean, I don't think it's going to affect things too much. It really depends on the mentality of the Rams players. How many of them have homes in those neighborhoods? How many of them are worried about other things other than football? Outside of the actual football matchup, this is a pretty evenly matched game, despite the records. Vikings have had a better season than the Rams, but the Rams have a very potent offense. They've got a solid running game with Kyren Williams. They've got some of the best wide receivers in the league with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and even like their slot receivers are better than some of the other receivers in the league. And then Matt Stafford, I mean, he's always been real steady in these playoff games. He's a solid quarterback. It's just going to be a matter of, can the Vikings defense get to him? If they get to him, they have a chance of knocking him out of the game because he's kind of injury prone these days because he's old like me. So yeah, I think this will be a solid matchup, but I think the Vikings will probably pull it out. I think Sam Darnold will do just enough, and the Vikings defense will hold up.
Frankie, one thing I'm looking forward to is seeing if the Chiefs can get back to the Super Bowl. Obviously, 14-1. I mean, great year. What was their final record? Was it 15-1?
It's like 15-2 or something.
15-2, something, whatever.
Because they threw the last game.
That's right.
To keep the Bengals out of the game and the playoffs.
Yeah. So
I don't blame them for that.
How do we feel about them in the playoffs? Are they going to turn it on? They've got a great record, but somehow they've just squeaked by with a number of wins. We talked about that all season long. Do we think they're going to turn it on and be the Chiefs of the last couple of years in the playoffs, or are they going to get knocked out finally?
I think they will at least do it against Houston. I think they will at least pull it off because even though Houston, and I don't know if we're going to talk about them a little bit, but even though they had a pretty convincing win over the Chargers there, I'm still not convinced about them this year. I think they've mostly it's been a down year for Houston for the most part, and so I think going up against Kansas City in Kansas City, I think the Chiefs will be able to pull that one off. With the offense being as dynamic as it is, I think the defense will make some big plays and step up there, but against the Ravens or Bills, I'm not so sure. I just think Allen and Lamar are playing on such a high level that I think it's going to be impossible for even the Chiefs to hold them to hold them to a victory. So I think, man, I would have to say, yeah, again, yes for the Texans, but I'm not convinced that they're going to be able to do it for the Ravens or Bills, just because I think that those two teams are playing on a better level than there.
Justin, you look like you agree. You think the Chiefs are going to get knocked out later on in the in the playoffs before they reach the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, earlier in the season, I was very high on the Texans, and then they started losing receivers, and C.J. Stroud regressed a little bit. But they looked a lot better this past week. Their defense really played well, and it's possible the Texans even do it, right? I mean, Chiefs have been off a week. We'll see what happens. But I do agree that the Ravens or the Bills are probably going to take out the Chiefs unless they did what they did last year and the coaching staff shoots itself in the foot and says, you know what? Let's try to throw the ball with the Chiefs instead of running it down their throats and controlling the possession time. So, it's really going to come down to how smart are the teams playing the Chiefs going to be. Are they going to be so worried about upsetting the Chiefs that they do something stupid, or are they going to play their game and just beat them soundless?
Well, it should be interesting. I enjoy playoff football much more so than regular season football. I just do or die in a game like football, just way more fun. Frankie, you'd enjoy this. I'm actually starting to get back into basketball. I know you're a big basketball guy. I tell you what, though, I'm getting more into the WNBA than the actual NBA.
Wow.
So I've been looking into the Las Vegas Aces, maybe checking out a game. I think they're pretty nasty, but I'm looking forward to the rest of the NFL playoffs. Should be good. We'll come back and talk
about the Commanders, man. You didn't talk about.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the Commanders. We should mention the Commanders because they had a what was it?
Close one against the Bucks. Probably the best playoff game of the whole first round.
Yeah. Squeaked out a win. Justin, since you are so eager to talk about it, why don't you take it away?
Right. Jaden Daniels, again, proved he is probably the runaway favorite for Rookie of the Year. Really took charge of that Commanders team, led them on the final drive for the game-winning doink field goal. It doinked off the uprights. But before that, he was just playing really well, taking care of the ball, creating more time for plays when there was no run game to be spoken of. So he's going to be an X factor for this Commanders team. Now, I do worry a little bit about that run game not being able to do more later on, especially when they get into the likes of the Eagles and that sort of thing. And the Lions, honestly, are a steamroller, so they might not even make it to the Eagles to begin with. The Commanders, the fans have to be happy. First playoff appearance in a while, and they look like they have a bright future.
Frankie, what are your thoughts?
I think the Commanders radio announcer said after the game, the cardiac Commanders have become the clutch Commanders. And that is the perfect way to describe it. How many times this season have we seen this team, whether it's a Hail Mary, last second touchdown, a field goal at the end, a doink off the upright, they always seem to win games in the most dramatic fashion, kind of like the Chiefs in that way for both of them this year, that they've been able to squeak out a lot of victories. But the Commanders, great win last night. Jaden Daniels continues to elevate himself, continues to be a star out there in Washington. Huge third down conversion there late in the game to seal up the opportunity to kick the field goal there at the end. Tampa Bay, tough loss there. Baker with the fumble there, which was just gut wrenching, and it's a shame because I like Baker and I think he's been good for Tampa, but that was just a terrible mistake that led to their downfall. Todd Bowles, I really don't think he's a good coach. I just have to come out and say it. How many times is he going to mismanage the clock? This happened twice yesterday, just not calling timeouts when you had to. They're not going to fire him in Tampa, but I would seriously consider it because I just feel like there isn't really how many more times are you going to mismanage clock, but you're going to have clock mismanagement issues? How many more times are you going to make mistakes like this? So I think it's just a shame there. Tampa had a good year, but they've also benefited from a really crappy division, but good for Washington. Great victory there at the end. A doink at the end is always fun to see.
Yeah.
And they keep on rolling. And that was their first playoff win in 18, 19 years? I think it was their first playoff win since the second Joe Gibbs era. It's been that long. But for Washington fans, they deserve this after the torment that Dan Snyder has put them through over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
It's hilarious it happened the first year he's gone.
Yeah,
exactly.
Dan Snyder sells all right, time to make the playoffs.
Coincidence. I'm surprised somebody wasn't in his ear, call timeout. I'm surprised that there's not more people feeding in at that point. But
he should have a timeout coordinator,
a
separate coach to manage the clock.
That would be the easiest job in the world. All right, now's a good time to call timeout.
Rex Ryan could have used that a lot with the Jets. There's plenty of times where Rex Ryan could have had that.
Yeah, I do the same thing in Madden though. I forget to call timeout, and next thing you know, it's
exactly the same thing. I mean,
not like the
Madden
big stage or
in your
anything.
living room versus a high stakes playoff game.
Yeah,
identical situations.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna wrap for a audio screwed up version of no punt intended. Hopefully, we'll get this squared away. I'll tell you what happened, and I told Justin before the show. So I had my headphones plugged in overnight just to charge them up for this show, and I plugged them in. You still got to plug in the lightning cable in some AirPods, or else they drain. But the other end was just sitting on my desk. So unless it was drawing energy from the vacuum of space, it was not charging my AirPods, which would explain why when I plugged them in, I was getting, or when I put them on, I was getting no sound. So that's what it is. Hopefully the echo wasn't too bad. We will get back next week to cover all these exciting games. And good luck to the teams playing in Glendale tonight. We'll cover them next week as well. Justin, Frankie, appreciate it as always.
Thank you, Derek.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.